Welcome to the Can Innovate podcast, the first ever podcast designed to showcase Canadian thought leadership. These innovators share industry insights, entrepreneurial best practices, lessons learned, and other tips that we can incorporate right into our lives, our careers, and our businesses. So let's get inspired. Hey, innovators, I've got an amazing guest today that I've been pretty stoked about chatting with. This actually came from another listener's referral about someone that is doing amazing things out there that we had to feature on the podcast. So Asma, thank you so much for, introducing us to Yvonne, because I am pretty excited about it. So for those that don't know who Yvonne is, let me explain. She is not only just a change strategist and a change leadership advocate with over 17 years of change experience helping professionals and organizations implement and transition through the change. She's also a speaker and an author, and we'll get into all of that. And let's face it, right? Change is happening constantly. We only know what we know. It's the stuff that we don't know that we're always kind of, right? So she is super genuinely passionate about change, and you're going to feel that energy in the episode. She has worked with some massive brands globally, helping lead and manage their strategic, technology, and regulatory change initiatives. Now, I've been there, and I can attest, this is no small feat. So those that are really successful in implementing change make it look so effortless. It's amazing. But it is seriously hard work, because people are really complicated in nature. So welcome, Yvonne. I am really excited to hear more about this, more about what the future of work looks like, and all the amazing initiatives that you're working on.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited to be here and, just share with you and just chat with you today. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Oh, I'm pretty excited too, because this is a really hard topic for people to really kind of understand, because they always, it's kind of like everyone's a backseat driver. They'll tell you everything that doesn't work in the company. But, because, when change happens, there's a lot of things that, moving parts that are happening at the same time, and how people, deal with it are very, very different. So it's a very hard, very sensitive area, but it can make or break anything.
Yes. Someone said to me the other day, change is hard. Change is difficult. I said, it only seems difficult when you're not sure what to expect. That's when it seems hard. If I told you I was going to give you $1 million and it would change your life, you would be happy about that, But when you don't know what to expect and it seems negative and there's that fear, then it just seems so difficult. And that's some of the things that we try to do to make that change journey much easier and more exciting for the recipients.
Yeah, this is great. So how did you get so passionate about change and helping organizations through change?
Oh, gosh, where do I start from? I think it really goes back to me, my own experience as what happened to me. I started my career. I can remember going, this is university. I schooled in England. So I get out of university, and while I'm at university, I make sure, while you're having your fun, make sure you come out with at least a 2-1 so that you can get yourself a good job, and make sure that you have some work experience so that, it's easy to get into the market. So at that time, got out of it, started to look for a job, met a couple of people who were doing like temp, good jobs, but, temp jobs or contracting jobs. I said, I'll never do that. I want to get into an organization that, I'm there, I have my job security, I know what's happening. Never do that. First job I'm in, few months into it, I get made redundant. I'm like, what happened here? So this was right in the middle of the .com boom. So I'm working for this, big internet e-commerce company, and, they're doing really great. And there's all these other big traditional companies. They're trying to get into, the whole internet .com boom, and they're either buying companies or starting their company. So they buy my company or where I'm working. And this is me. I don't read the writing on the wall. So since then, I've learned to read the writing on the wall. So one of my favorite books is Who Moved My Cheese? And I'm reminded of the story about him and her who never see the cheese being moved or it's finishing. And all of a sudden, they just see who moved my cheese. So when this acquisition happened, I remember everybody in my team either leaving the organization or going out of the organization or moving into another role in the organization. But I was so blindsided to it. I wasn't even looking. I was just so excited to be in this job and do my best. And before I could say Jack Robinson, I got called into the office and told, you no longer have a job. So that was a big mental shift for me, really big mental shift for me, because I started to just look for a job whereby I could just pursue my passion. It was no longer about job security. It was about, what do you enjoy doing? What do you want to do? And in exploring my passion, started off as a business analyst, moved into being a project manager, did management consulting. And all through that, there was always a common thread. My focus was always around people. What's going to happen to the people when we do these changes? How are the people going to adopt these changes? How do we ensure that it's successful? What does the long-term strategy look like? What does sustainment look like? I always found that common thread in all of my roles. And that's when I realized change management was it for me. Leading and driving change was that word that described what I loved to do and what I enjoy doing.
That's amazing. I really love how your passion has come from a real pain point that you've really experienced. So you can really understand from other people's perspective how they're going to be feeling when things are happening. That's so powerful. Really is powerful. Now, you've worked with some big names and big companies like JP Morgan and Chase, RBC, Deloitte, Phillips Consulting, General Motors. I can imagine you've seen some crazy things.
I have seen some crazy things. Honestly, it's been incredible. There's some crazy things I've done personally that I think, what were you thinking when you did that?
Can you share one of those?
Okay. I'll share two with you. One of it was, I remember there was this merger and acquisition and there was a reorg, and they were bringing all this different companies together. So there was duplication of roles, and we had to kind of like do matrix for the reorg, determine who goes into what roles and how they do the interviews. And I remember being with my boss, and he was going through a process, and I said, this doesn't quite seem right, because it's unfair to some people. It's going to cause adverse effects for other people. I wasn't bought into it because I was thinking about the adverse effects to people. And I said, at that point in time, I really didn't care about my role or my job. And I said, I'm not going to participate in this because it's unfair. And everybody on the team just turned and looked at me and said, who does she think she is? But I was still prepared to do it because that's the passion I would have around, when we're doing change initiatives, we're leading and driving change, there's a big people impact. It's people's lives that we're thinking of. It's not just about organizational change and what it means, but what it also means to the people at the end. At the end of the day, they have a family, they have a home, they have kids, they have responsibilities. And I'm very big on equity. Equality is good. I mean, just coming out of, we're still in International Women's Day month. So there's the good thing about equality, but I'm also very passionate about equity and fairness for people. So that really drives a lot of what I do. But one of my most recent experiences, not recent, but in the last couple of years, and where I see change leadership as being important is you have change management, which is very tactical. It's very project focused. But I also believe that change leadership is just more a skill around your interpersonal skills, your leadership skills. It's that art of leading change as opposed to the tactical. So I got into this project, and things were going a little bit pear-shaped. They were like, happy to have a change person on board. You're welcome. And they said, okay, there's this client, there's this stakeholder who we're having one of our biggest issues with. She's not budging. We're not able to do anything, and we need your help with it. I was like, okay, fine. All excited to go meet the clients. Nobody wants me that I'm going into the lion's den. Then I get in to meet this client and, stakeholder, business user. And she's like all screaming, ready to walk me out of the office and say, you should have been here ages ago. I really don't know what's happening. This change doesn't impact. She was just going on. And they don't teach you these things when you go through methodologies, how you're going to handle a client or stakeholder or business user who is just screaming at you. And that's where things like empathy and emotional intelligence and collaboration and all those things that come with change leadership really come into play. And you know what? I just sat through, I empathized with her, I dug into my emotional intelligence. You know, I did all of the things that just came naturally from having that art of leading change or having that experience. And I ended up connecting with her. How many months down the line, if there was something happening, she was like, why isn't Yvonne here? She became one of our biggest advocates and supporters when it came to leading and driving this change with the business. So to me, you know, there's so much that goes into leading change. There's so much experiences. Sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you're thinking, what did I get myself into? But when you see the final results and, you know, the impact and it's making to whether clients and the employees and different people, it's all fulfilling.
I love that. I think that's really important. Like, you really do need to have those kind of essential soft skills. That's almost becomes a DNA to be able to handle these things, like having that empathy, emotional intelligence, and collaboration. It really makes a difference because then you can understand where people are coming from and what their perception is.
Yes. And you'll find out that I'm not always the friends with, you know, some of the, like when you get into the team, you're usually on the team full of technology people, and you're hired into that team, for instance, to help them implement and drive the work. And then they kind of like always think, are you on the business side or are you on our side? And I'm like, no, I'm not on either side. I'm just about driving positive change. You understand? Ensuring that we get to the end goal in a positive way. It's not always about the budget. It's not always been about on time, but it's about doing right by the organization as well. What's the overall big picture that we're trying to get at? So it's having that big picture perspective as well.
Oh, that's amazing. I can see that it's really important because, you know, companies are putting in all this new technology and pieces of it, but they're hoping people are going to actually respond and use it in a way that they can actually get those benefits.
Yeah.
So are there a lot of kind of common mistakes that companies make?
I would say the biggest one is not focusing on the business side of things. When I say business side of things, we bring in this technology. We're told this technology is fantastic. The vendor comes and gives you a big picture, what's their experience with implementing with other clients. And, you know, they paint this lovely picture or the technology being brought in, whether whoever owns the technology, they paint this picture why we should do it. You have this sponsor who wants to, you know, implement it because he thinks it's the next big thing. But what they don't take time to do in many situations is understand the business domain, understand the business culture, and ensure that there's an alignment between that technology and the people. You know, it's really about understanding what's the culture like? What are the business processes? How do people operate? Then understand how does the technology integrate into this. So it has to be a happy place. And that's where, you know, we're going to likely struggle in the future if we don't start to have that kind of thinking with all of the fourth industrial revolution emerging technologies we're seeing, like AI, blockchain, and robotics, and all of this wonderful stuff. It's like as we move into the digital side of things, technology is now at the heart of the business. It's no longer the business using technology. Technology has to drive the business processes. Technology has to be built around the business processes. It has to be built around business strategy, business objectives. So those two have to be strongly tied together. So it's going to be more important that there's a bigger understanding of the business culture, a big understanding of the business needs, the business strategy, and how those two can work together, as opposed to separate things that business is using technology. They have to work together.
No, that's amazing. It's funny because, we keep hearing about all of this disruptive technology that's coming into the
Mm-hmm.
organization. Like, it's quite the noisy landscape. You've got,
Mm-hmm.
blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, big data. Like, I could go on and on and on. Right. So, out of curiosity, do you have a kind of a sense of what the future of work looks like?
Oh gosh, there's so much out there that people say, what's the future of work? How is it going to change how we work? Some people say, oh, it's not going to change anything. It's going to be like, before. What's the difference between this technology and the other technology? So the first thing is, I say to people when they ask me that question about how is this any different, is this is going to be more exponential. It's going to happen at a speed that is going to leave us nearly blindsided if we're not preparing to lead and drive these changes. If leaders struggled before to lead other type of changes at that pace that they were in, when you think back to previous organizations who didn't come on board, like the Kodaks, the IBM, and all of those things, think now that it's going to happen faster than before, because first of all, you have the internet. The internet makes the sharing of information much, much quicker. Trends are picked up much, much quicker. And then when you think about technologies like AI and all of the blockchain and robotics, it's crowdsourced in terms of development. You have the big companies who are making this, the codes available right across the world. Everybody's sharing their AI algorithm. So it's not like one person developing it in one place and nobody knows what's happening. Everybody's developing and sharing that knowledge. So the speed at which everything is developing is happening faster than you can think of. It's already within there's so many organizations are already using AI and robotics, and you don't even realize it in terms of what it's doing. So how is it going to change the future of work? First of all, it's going to, there's so much research out there that shows that it could change up to, in the next few years, the next 5 years, you might see that 50% of the, nearly 50% of the jobs that exist today might no longer exist. But what we will get is new types of jobs coming into the workplace. And what we will also get about some of the jobs that remain are these jobs now being different. You have to tag on new skills in terms of how you operate. You're going to find people now working alongside robots. You're going to find people are training robots. And the beauty about what the future of work is that there's going to be more job satisfaction as well. So it's going to take away a lot of those repetitive tasks that you would have previously done that you don't enjoy doing. And it's going to help you focus on what is more satisfying, what is more value adding to what it is that you're doing. But yes, jobs will go, but new jobs will come. And it's going to be very key that we start to have a big mindset shift and thinking about how is this going to affect my job? How is it going to affect how I do my work? What are the new technologies coming in? How is it going to complement what I'm doing? How is it going to make it better? But I'm excited about the future of work and the changes that are going to come. But I also know that we have to be prepared.
No, this is great, because I think that's really valuable. But, what should people be thinking about in order to kind of prepare for the changes, to kind of say, you know what, the change is going to happen. We just don't know when it's going to happen, but you can start taking some steps. To your earlier point, learn to read the writing on the wall, kind of see, and then what new skills you can be acquiring and what new areas that you're interested in, because it presents more opportunities because you're thinking a little bit more ahead, and you might get a little bit more excited because you're going to see a little bit of a difference in the old way of doing things.
Yes, for sure.
Love that. So I actually heard that you're hosting a pretty big conference, this Change Leadership, that's happening on May 8th. Out here. And what exactly was kind of the inspiration, and what's kind of the idea behind all of it?
Okay, with that, it's really driven by that passion that I have for, change leadership, saying that change leadership is a skill that needs to exist across all levels with an organization. So this conference was really born out of me working with so many leaders, working with individual contributors, project managers, change managers, senior managers, directors, working with these people and even the sponsors, executives, and seeing that for every change initiative or any project that succeeded or failed, one thing was really common, and that was leadership. Not just leadership where people think management or leaders are only the people at the top, but it's leadership that cuts across every level of the organization. I started to identify this gap as change leadership being a key and important skill to drive the success of projects or drive the success of change initiatives in organizations. And that really led to saying, you know what, let's create a community and a platform and a forum where people can come and learn. And a little bit about what's different from the change leadership, I have to say, is there are other organizations that are doing fantastic things out there. We have organizations like ACMP, CMI, change management associations and organizations who are doing training and education with a focus on change management. And and the skills that go into it. There are universities that teach the theory about leading change, and there are many conferences and events out there that are offered to technical people and leaders around the AI, the blockchain, and all of those emerging technologies. It focuses more on the technical people. However, we started to see there wasn't anything out there that really focused on the business side and leadership of innovation and emerging technologies. Whether change professionals or leaders, organizations needed to be prepared from the business side of things, and that's historically what's happening, where everybody focuses on the technology and doesn't focus on the business side of it, the adoption of it, the sustainment of it. So what we started to do was focus on bringing, industry practitioners, people who are already leading things like AI and implementing it in the organization, robotics, people who have had challenges and successes and experiences that they could come and share with the audience to say, it's happening. Very important that people realize it is happening. And they also hear from people in terms of how are they doing it, going away from the fear of it and saying, how are other people doing it? How can I learn from other organizations? What tools and strategies are they using? Going away from the not just methodology or theory, but the actual practice of using it. And we also wanted to create more of a community and environment and people that cut across the change management profession, but into bringing people together who are all responsible for leading change to make it more inclusive and say, as a community, how can we lead and drive positive change? So we focus on creating that experience as a whole.
No, it's amazing because you've got some really great big names that are coming to attend, and a couple of our own personal Can Innovate favorites because they've actually been on the podcast a couple of times. We got Dr. Akpoveta, and we know how she's passionate about all the changes that are happening. We actually had Eli from MindBridge AI on the podcast as well, so he's talking about all those things. Like, you've got some really big names that can really talk about the big trends, what's really already happening, things to kind of keep and be aware of. So it's going to be really exciting to bring all of these leaders in one forum to talk about this.
Yes, we spend a lot of time curating. Curating the event is very big for us because we're trying to tell a story. So each speaker is part of a puzzle, to this overall story and that journey that we want people to be able to live with. So they each bring something, from having Alex Benet, who is the CIO of Canada, and he's leading change in what you would call a bureaucratic environment, to people who are, innovators, people like we have Claudette McGowan, who is responsible for employee experience and talks a lot about the future of work. She's the CIO for employee experience at BMO, to various other speakers and panelists who are actually implementing the solutions in the organization. So we take a lot of time to really curate it and ensure that we're bringing people that can provide the best experience for the attendees.
It's going to be brilliant because, getting all these leaders in an organization to think about what's ahead is going to be amazing, especially to drive that kind of change in this amazingly disruptive business environment that keeps getting, I keep saying to people that if we think the pace of change is fast now, we're on the slow side of that. We're on the slow side of it.
Yes.
The momentum is just going to build up faster and faster and faster.
Mm-hmm.
So I've noticed that you're regularly on stage and you are an amazing speaker. Like
Thank you.
really are fascinating. You know how to tell a story. Like you're an amazing storyteller.
Oh, thank you.
Out of curiosity, how did you get into speaking? Because I feel like a lot of people get intimidated about, speaking on stage, but you seem to be quite the natural at it.
Oh gosh, I have gone back and forth with, do I call myself a speaker, or do I just go and speak? So I go back and forth on that. And I have to say that it is partly natural. And I found that the more I've had speaking opportunities where people invite me to speak, the more I've said, you know what, you have to hone in on this skill. So I am also part of the John Maxwell leadership program, where they do teach us around leadership as well as speaking and honing in on your skills and telling the stories. I have to say, I'm still growing as a speaker, but what makes it very easy for me, or makes it easier for me, is my passion to just want to tell my story, my passion to just want to speak truth, my passion to want to help people. So the easiest times for me when I'm on the stage or speaking to people is when I'm sharing things that I'm just innately passionate about, things that, that are real, are true, my own experience. It becomes easier than when it's just scripted. When it's scripted, it's a little bit hard. You're trying to remember what to say and what not to say. So my easiest times are when I just have to share my story or share with you like I'm doing today.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. So, and you're also an author of 3 books, not just one. I'm soon to be a first-time author, so I'm kind of really super excited and nervous at the time. I'm guessing you remember what that experience was like, because you've written like these 3 to change the change you want, change your mindset, change your life, change what you want, a career booster guide and workbook, change what you want, a business startup guide and workbook. What inspired you to write all these amazing books?
Oh, so maybe I'll say again, and that goes to what my natural path has been, whereby I'm very big on having a vision of where I want my life to go, but I'm not very good on working out the day-to-day, short-term, long-term goals when it comes to that. So yes, I always thought it would be nice to be an author, but there wasn't any pressure on me when I say I have to be an author by so and so day. It was one of those things like, I'd like to write and share the information I have. So writing those books was a natural progression from all of the work that I'd been doing. So I'd been, for many years, I'd been training on business startups in terms of how to transition from being a professional to starting your own business. I've been training people around their career progression. So it was easy to develop those 2 workbooks around your career booster as well as starting your own business. So I just was able to go and bring that material and then develop it. Another thing that I found I've been doing with people was every time I was coaching people, because my background is coaching as well, I coach and mentor people. The biggest barrier was always around mindset. So the program had started to develop my experiences, the thoughts, the teachings I'd collected from working with a variety of my coaching clients. I just brought that together to say, okay, I can put this in a book. And that's where Change Your Life, Change Your Mindset started from. So the next thing was, I'm very big on doing things professionally. Went out there, okay, who can help me with this? And thank God today is so much easier to publish a book. Some people say it has its disadvantages because that means anybody can publish anything. But I also feel it has its advantages because that means there are more voices. People can tell their stories. We don't have to wait for the big publishers to tick all the boxes, say, are they big? Would anybody buy it? Everybody has a story they can put out there. So having all the opportunities like the internet and companies like Create Space, Amazon will help you publish your book was really fantastic and helpful in me taking those ideas I have, packaging it and together and being able to share my story.
No, it's amazing. I really, really am excited because I know how much hard work it is to do this.
Yes.
I'm learning that firsthand. So that's amazing that you're able to kind of package it so people can really utilize it. And there's such great reviews, really are great reviews. And for our listeners out there, I'm going to put all the links in the show notes so you just don't have to look too far.
Oh, thank you.
So out of curiosity, do you also find time to read a lot, or are you reading anything interesting right now? Or is there a book that kind of resonated with you?
Oh, I just finished reading 2 books. And first of all, I think Audible or audiobooks are the biggest thing that has ever happened to me. I do not know how to hold a book and read a book. It has to be Audible. So I use that to when I'm driving, I can, and I'm in the car for an hour, 30 minutes, I can listen to a book. When I'm on the treadmill, I can listen to the book. So first of all, Audible is the best thing that ever happened to me. The 2 books I just finished one is Captivology by Ben Parr, and This is Marketing by Seth Godin. Those were 2 fantastic books I would recommend to any entrepreneur. And just generally anybody looking to make change out there and wanting their story or their wanting to be heard. So how do you captivate that audience? How do you drive positive change? How do you do some of these fantastic things as an entrepreneur? Those are 2 good books I recommend for any entrepreneur. Just finished reading that and about to pick the next one up.
No, this is great. This is really insightful because I always get inspired by people and what they're reading. So I actually started a virtual book club because other group of people were reading some of the same books, and I wanted to discuss some of the books that I was reading because you get so inspired by such great books, and then you're like, oh, and then you have no one to talk to about it because
I know
it's I'm like, no. So I started a virtual book club just so I have some people to talk to. Yeah. Honestly, it's fun. Like we're, and because people take such big nuggets of wisdom from such great books. And I've spending a lot more time reading these days because I just,
for sure. When I was reading Captivology, I was like, why did nobody tell me about this book ever? Why did I have to just find it out on my own? So I'm part of, I have this app. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's called Blinkist. So it has a whole bunch of maybe 10-minute book summaries where it goes through books. So that allows me to be able to listen to, those book summaries very quickly. And then you pick up a book that is interesting and then you say, okay, I'm going to go read the whole book. So that's how I came across it. But I said, I'm sure every friend I have that is an entrepreneur has read this book and nobody told me about it. Why not? It's a great book.
That's fantastic. So guessing that you don't get a lot of downtime, but if you do, is there a kind of a hidden sweet spot that you love to go to?
Oh gosh, do you really want to hear this?
I guess. I'm curious.
You know what? It's my couch. I have this little corner in my couch where I love to just sit in and curl up and just watch TV and have me a glass of salted caramel Irish cream or Bailey's or one of those things. That's my sweet spot. There's this quote by Oprah where it says, your home should always rise to meet you. So my home, when I'm in that spot, I literally feel as if my whole surroundings and my home and my environment is just rising to meet me. And I'm just in the best spot and that just best position because I'm kind of like an ambivert. People don't realize this. I'm right bang in the middle of being an introvert and an extrovert. So I'm in the middle. So when I'm out there, people think I'm an extrovert because they always see my extroverted side. But my introverted side just wants to chill out at home, do nothing, and just be.
I've never heard that terminology before. Ambivert. I think that's me. I think that's me as well because I always keep saying I'm an extrovert by being an introvert. But I think that's actually me.
Oh, check it out. It's out there. I just, as soon as I found the word and I found the description and I started learning about it, there was just a greater self-awareness about me. I will turn up for events, but if I don't have to, I'm just happy being at home. but check it out. Ambivert. Oh gosh, that's me all through.
Oh, this is brilliant. So finally, how can our listeners connect with you?
If you want to reach out to me, you can be via email. It's Yvonne at thechangeleadership.com, or just checking my email, searching me on social media. And also, they can also visit our website. That's www.thechangeleadership.com. So same thing as my email, Yvonne at thechangeleadership.com, or www.thechangeleadership.com.
Oh, that is brilliant. It's been such an absolute pleasure having you.
Same here. Thank you for having me. It's been a great conversation. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Thanks, everyone, for joining in and tuning in this week. Next week, you got another really cool episode. I hope you enjoyed the sneak peek. I'm going to try to do this and see how this works. If you guys are interested, like the little sneak teasers, let me know. I'd love to hear back from all of you. And don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a review. And let me know if you know of another Canadian innovator that's doing something really cool around the world. Let's get them showcased. Or if there's an innovation trend that you would like to specifically focus on. Anyways, looking forward to hearing from all of you, and talk to you next week. Cheers.